Welcome back to Kenna's Corner, our second episode that's filmed on YouTube. How does it feel to be on YouTube this time?
I feel honored.
This is Bree. So Bree's been on an episode before, but now you get to see what she looks like.
Yes,
Super cute, single.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about dating again because we've had more experiences with dating. So
since our last episode together,
yes.
we have development.
So that's a good way to put it. I'm going to pull up my questions. So we wanted to focus on something we've had some experience with, which is when a guy isn't giving you time, the time that you need or deserve or whatever it is. So let's just jump right in. You ready?
Let's go for it.
Okay. Okay. So what reasons do you feel like someone has to not give you time? So, let's just, preface this. We've both had experiences with boys, whether recently or just always.
Yeah, just
all
with
the
life
time
and
with
dating.
With dating, I think both of us, one of our love languages is quality time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my top one for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the guys we've dated haven't, maybe that's not their love language, or there's other reasons why they're not giving us the time that we need. So why do you think that is? What excuses, I guess, do guys have for that?
Look, guys will always come up with an excuse, whether it be like, oh, sorry, I didn't have my phone with me, or I just got caught up doing something, I got distracted. No matter the excuse, it still doesn't feel good. To, have someone tell you that you're not valuable or a valuable way to, spend their time.
Not a priority.
Yeah. Being put on the back burner, realizing it doesn't feel good, and then it just kind of makes you question a lot of things.
Yeah.
Where do you stand? Are you really as important as you think you are? The answer should always be yes. But I think just the circumstances have a lot to deal with it. We're in the age group where, college is happening.
Yeah.
We have our school priorities and family obligations, and so adding a relationship into the mix just creates a new dynamic for both people, and figuring that out can be hard sometimes.
Definitely. Yeah, I like how you mentioned school or work or anything.
Work is a big one as well.
Can really get in the way of a relationship. So how do you balance that?
Just with opening yourself up to having those sorts of discussions. All right, so I know you're gonna be busy on this day, I'm busy on this day. How about we, take time on Sunday afternoons to spend time together?
Yeah.
Or what if we just, went for a treat once a week? Just make time for each other. If that person is really worth that sacrifice, something will always, make it work.
Yeah.
But,
definitely. As I was preparing for this podcast, I just Googled what to do when my boyfriend isn't giving me time, because I wanted to see if other people have dealt with this and what their ideas were, and there was so much on Google about this, so we're not the only ones that have dealt with this. But it was interesting looking up reasons why a guy might not be giving you that time, or girl. This could go the other way too.
Yeah, it could go both ways.
But just since we're both girls, we'll probably just talk about the guys. One website I went on, it was so sad. It was a very negative website. It was he's either cheating on you, or he only wanted you for the physical, or all this stuff. I'm
we never want to hear that.
We don't want to hear that.
We don't want to know.
But hopefully the guys we're dating aren't really that far on the spectrum.
Yeah.
Hopefully it is more just their priorities are in a different place than ours are.
Absolutely.
I tend to be school, my boyfriend is first, which is probably not the best.
Hey, I have cut class to hang out with boys before.
Yes,
so.
I have too. I still take my education very seriously, but I try to, make time for both. And maybe I have cut class before too, to hang out with a boy.
Sorry, Mom.
But straight A's, so it's okay. But there's a website we're actually going to talk about later that's a little bit more positive, maybe give us some ideas. And
absolutely.
The listeners and watchers, So what do you feel like is the right amount of time for people in a relationship to spend together? Because I always want it to be every day. Is that too much to ask?
I think it just depends on the person that you're with. If it works for you both to see each other every day and you don't get sick of each other or like get upset or I don't know, get angry easily, I don't feel like there is anything wrong with, you know, spending a little bit of time each day. Because I feel like in those situations your relationship can really, you know, flourish and grow, and you can, you know, see how things would look, you know, if you did, you know, a long-term commitment. Other people, and I feel like it's been the same with, you know, most of these guys that I've been dating, they very much like their alone time, like their personal time. And that's sometimes hard for me to accept because I like spending time with people. I don't necessarily like being alone all the time. And so, like, I've never personally had a relationship where I've been able to spend every day with that person because, you know, work or school or other obligations, it just hasn't worked out for me to see them every day. But I think it just depends on the person. What do you think?
I agree. I think it depends on the person for sure. Something else I was thinking about that we've dealt with is we tend to maybe be the ones that are keeping the relationship going.
We're the initiators.
We're the initiators, and we're the ones that are planning the time spent together. And so they might be willing to spend the time that we plan.
That we carve out.
But how do you feel about when it's only us doing that and they're not really ever planning anything?
I feel like at a certain point, like, I'm okay with, you know, asking someone to hang out with me, you know, multiple times in a row. But if, you know, that same trend continues, if I'm the only one asking and it's like that for like more than a week, I'm like, let's take a second and think about things. And then I'll just straight up and ask them sometimes, like, are you just accepting to hang out with me or like go on dates because I'm asking? Or like, do you feel the same? Like, do you like initiating, like, kind of a deal? And like they'll either say yes or no. And so just being straight up about it is the best way in my book.
I think I've only asked a guy on a date 2 or 3 times ever. I don't think I'm ever gonna do it again. I just did it today. We talked about this.
Oh, goodness.
And it was so scary. And now he did say yes.
Okay, good.
By the way, I haven't told you yet. But now I'm like, wait, now I have to plan this date. And like, I still can't tell for sure if he really wants to go on it. So now I really pity guys. I know how they feel now. Because what if they just say yes to be nice? You don't know.
We do the same thing.
And now I'm like, wow, I understand. I'm never doing this again. I'll just wait for them. Because, like, one of my fears is that I'm going to put in all this time, like I always do, all of this energy, attention, and then not really get it in return.
Right.
So I think it is about having an open conversation. And asking, like, hey, are you really interested in pursuing a relationship?
It really all goes back to communication. So we're experts, right?
We're experts. You are. You have the degree now. I just started this major.
That is a joke, by the way. I'm nowhere near being an expert communicator.
I think she is an expert. I run by my text with her. I'm like, how does this sound? We do that for each other, though, I think.
We do.
Okay. So we talked about there's no right way or right amount of time for a couple. It does just depend. Because I think there are couples that are very independent, and then they're like independent together. So they'll spend the right amount of time. But then there's the couples that you see them inseparable, right? They are always together. Where do you feel like you fall on that? If you had the choice, if the guy was like the same as you as far as how much time?
That is a really great question. I feel like I would want to see them as much as I could. But at the same time, like, I know I have my things to do. And so if I could see them every day, even if it was for just like half an hour,
Yeah.
I feel like that would be perfect.
Yeah. You're like, oh, good. I got to see you today.
Mm-hmm.
And I always appreciate if I'm not able to see the person that we talk on the phone for a little bit, like at the end of the day. Like, hey, how was your day? Just for a minute. Just catch up, you know? Just want to check in.
Thinking about you.
Yeah. There was a guy that I was kind of dating at the school, and the days that I had to work, if I wasn't able to see him, he'd call me after work and be like, hey, how was work? Just wanted to see you. I'm like, that was so nice. Like, that meant a lot to me.
That does mean a lot.
So,
boys, take note. Call your girl.
Call her. She likes it. Or leave her a message. Sometimes he'd leave me a message.
Oh my gosh.
If I didn't answer.
If a boy left me a message.
I know. So nice. That never happened.
Yep, never.
So take notes. Maybe we should make a list. Here, a guy asks us on a date, do these things, and then we'll be good.
We should just write a book about it.
We should. We should write a book. That originally was my plan, actually, before the podcast.
Oh, really?
Was to write a book about dating advice for guys. That was what I was going to do. But I'm like,
that's actually
are they going to get
cool.
a book? I don't know if they read books as much as, like, a dating book. I mean, they read books. Sorry, that was rude.
Do boys read books?
Do they read books? But would they get a book about dating? I feel like they might be a little bit embarrassed by that.
Yeah, it could be.
They'd be more likely maybe to watch a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Or listen to a podcast. So, but I think we could still, maybe we could have a, like, follow along with the podcast with this pamphlet, this book. Just some ideas. We're growing. Kenna's Corner. Okay. What should you do if your boyfriend isn't giving you time? Or maybe you're not even dating yet, but significant other, potential boyfriend.
I think just bringing it up, you know, just saying, hey, like, I really like spending time with you. Like, when we are together, like, you make me feel good about myself. Like, you make me happy. We always have a fun time together. Like, I want more of that. What do you think?
Yeah.
It's like, is that something you would want too?
Yeah. I like that question at the end to see where they're at. Because they might just be like, okay, whatever you want. You know, it's like, but where are you at? You know?
Yeah.
You have some experience with this, don't you?
Yes.
Recently? Do you want to share that? Is
Absolutely.
That okay? All right.
Yes. I am always open to sharing my experiences here on Kenna's Corner. So, with this most recent situationship that I had, you know, things near the end were, I don't know, I started seeing some signs about, you know, me not being as much of a priority to him as I thought I would be. And so I openly asked him, hey, like, are you getting tired of being around me? Like, am I, you know,
you're not feeling it anymore?
Yeah, like, kind of, can you just tell me what you're feeling?
Yeah. And
he's like, no, like, I really do appreciate, you know, you asking me to do things, and, like, you're fun to be around, you're funny, but, you know, I do have a lot of other things on my plate right now, and so please just, like, be patient with me, like, just know this, and this. And he gave me the validation that I needed, but it wasn't enough. Things, you know, just ultimately crumbled apart after that, and it was pretty hard to deal with. Like, he wasn't really reaching out to me. Like, we used to just, like, Snapchat, like, all day long, and, you know, just talk about our days, what we were up to. You know, it's fun, like, being a part of it and, like, seeing what they're up to. And, like, I miss that. And so, like, a couple days went by where I didn't really hear much from him, and so I was trying to reach out and saying, like, hey, like, can we talk? Like, I want to call you. And I just wasn't really getting much from him. And so I just had to make a decision to keep fighting or to move on, and I chose to move on because I know my worth. I want someone to make me a priority as much as I'm trying to make them a priority for me. Definitely. And so it is sad the way that it ended, especially since, you know, things were so good at the beginning. Yeah. But, you know, everything, like, has a reason. You learn something new with every person you date, and so, you know, just remember, you are worth a lot. Yes. So you're worth time. Yeah, you're worth time. And I even wrote an affirmation on my mirror. Nice. Last night, actually. Oh, what does it say? You are worth too much for someone to put in little effort. Yeah. And so you don't need to scrape your feet along, moping, just like hoping and wishing that someone would give you the effort that you deserve when you can go out and find it with someone else. And so
yeah, I think what I'm realizing with dating is that there are just very different types of people. And maybe for him, he needs someone that is more, I don't know, on their own. Because for me, I prefer spending every day together if I'm in a relationship, because I too am like, oh, does he not like me anymore if I don't hear from him,
And sometimes, like, with the way that society is, people will say, like, oh, you're kind of crazy for thinking that.
Yeah, like, you're clingy.
Like, you need to chill, like, give him his space. But, like, no.
Like, yes.
Your thoughts
but, like,
are
days
valid.
and weeks.
Your thoughts are valid no matter what stage of the relationship you're at. And if you don't have an exact rhyme or reason for it, sometimes, you can always take that moment to step back and reflect and evaluate. Am I overreacting in this moment? I could be. But is it still important to me? Yeah. And so by taking that time to reflect, like, I was able to really realize, like, hey, this is something that I'm not super comfortable with, and I need to address it.
Yeah. And then make the choice, like you said, to fight for it or move on. And I think you were trying to fight for it for a while. You really were trying to make it work and communicate with him, like, hey, let's talk to each other, because I guess, I don't know if you said this, but it went from an in-person relationship to long distance.
Right, I
because
did not leave that,
school ended. So that's kind of where things started to change, was right before that distance was about to happen.
That week when he moved home is when it fell apart.
Yeah.
And I feel like another thing, just kind of looking back in hindsight, we never really had the opportunity to, talk about what we wanted. Or like what kind of plan or expectation we had for the rest of the summer. And so I feel like that was, just what was the cherry on top for our demise. So just talk to your person about anything and everything.
I had a long distance relationship, which I've mentioned before, and we had a few times, it was like we would do really well for a while, and then like communication would start to drop. No offense, but like usually from his end, because I'm very loyal, I think is how I am. I'm like, I will not talk to anyone else. Like, I am yours and you're the person I'm thinking about all the time. And if he would get busy with life, then sometimes he wouldn't text as much, and I'd be like, oh, but I miss you, So we did have a few talks. I'm like, hey, I know you're so busy and we don't see each other in person because of long distance, but I would really like to talk to you more, just so that we can actually keep this relationship. If we never talk, it's just going to fall apart.
Yeah.
So then he'd be like, I'm so sorry. Yeah. And then we'd make some more plans, set expectations, and then it'd be really good again. And so we'd have to do it a few times because it was a long time that we were doing long distance. So I think that that's pretty normal.
And keeping them accountable is good. Like, hey, I know we talked about this. I just want to make sure it's still something that's important to you.
Yeah. Give them the option. If it's not, then they have a way out too. And I think that I could have been better at that. Like, instead of me being the one that was pushing the relationship, being like, are you still good with this? Do you feel good with this? Because if you really care about someone, I think that you would give them the option to do what's best for them. And if they're not feeling it anymore, then maybe move on, which is sad, and I'm in denial of those things usually. So
it's hard to move on.
It is.
Like, you get so accustomed and used to, what your life is like in that relationship, and then once, the absence of that person hits, it rocks your world a little bit. Have an identity crisis.
Which, like, of course you should be happy with you, but I don't think that that's saying that we're not happy with who we are if we don't have a relationship. I think it's just you get so used to being a team and being together all the time that when that's gone, it is like, it kind of rocks your world a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, what should you not do if your boyfriend isn't giving you time? That maybe girls make this mistake.
I think making accusations.
Yeah.
And assuming.
He's cheating. Yep.
assuming and accusing
Mm-hmm.
just sets a terrible tone for the relationship. And, people can work past it, but
Mhm.
once those accusations are made, that's going to be in your mind and
Mhm.
his mind or her mind, depending
Yeah.
on, what the situation
Yeah.
is. Then it'll just be tricky to resolve.
Definitely. I feel like once drama comes into the relationship, it's really hard to fix it.
Yeah, I've been there
Because
before.
trust is lost when drama happens. I think another thing is, and it's hard because you want to talk to your friends about it, but making sure it doesn't turn into gossip, or even
Yeah.
your family. Like, sometimes I've talked about maybe a negative situation that happened in my dating life, and then it changes other people's view of that person,
Mm-hmm.
and it affects the relationship.
Absolutely.
Then they're like, I feel like your friends don't like me, or your family doesn't like me, because there's one instance where you were having a little moment and you kind of talked negatively, but actually everything was fine and you're overthinking it.
Mhm.
And now everyone thinks of them differently.
Yeah, that can be really hard, but I think where you're coming from with that statement is, completely valid.
Mhm.
Sometimes we just need to vent,
Yeah,
but other people will take it
take it the wrong
the
way.
wrong way.
So be careful who you vent to,
Mm-hmm.
and make sure. I think there's a difference between venting and gossiping too,
Absolutely.
which I've talked about in a different podcast about friendship.
Right.
But it relates to relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't gossip about each other. Okay, there's this WikiHow, which I think is hilarious.
Guys, when she sent me this, I was at work and I paused
so
what I was
funny.
doing to read this article. Like, I was completely, encapsulated.
So, yeah, I just...
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so true.
So true. Best WikiHow I've ever seen
Yes.
about dating. So, WikiHow, if you want to sponsor Kenna's Corner, let me know.
Hit us up.
But this is how to tackle your boyfriend not making enough time for you. So just like we've been talking about, it gives some great steps. So there's 3 main steps and then kind of
It's got
steps within.
subcategories.
Yes. So part 1, agreeing how to spend time together. We kind of talked about this, having that communication. So the first one, set rules to minimize distractions from technology. Has that ever been an issue in any of your relationships?
Yes, this is actually something that I wanted to share.
Yeah.
I've invited, guys to, come do things with me and my friends,
Mhm.
People that I was interested in, just to see, how they would interact with me and a
Mhm.
friend or, a close, person to me. And when I was getting my senior pictures done, I went out to dinner with my photographer friend who did
Mhm.
it, and I brought this boy along with me so, he can feel included in my life. And while we were at dinner, he was on his phone the entire time.
No.
And he barely spoke, throughout the dinner conversation, and my friend and I, we were trying to,
Include him.
and make him feel involved, and he just wasn't having it, and I was kind of mad.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the first time that had happened. And so I'm okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it really kind of struck a nerve, because I'm bringing you along to meet someone who is important to me, and this is how you kind of act, and it's a treatment of me as well.
Yeah, it's what does that mean about you if they don't even want to give that attention to you and your friend that you really care about, right?
Mm-hmm. And so that was pretty disappointing to me. And then I didn't really address it. I should have.
Yeah.
I should have.
Regrets. It can be hard though, because I don't know, depending on their personality too, you either be what? No, it was because they have an excuse, and then you're oh, maybe I'm just overreacting.
In the article, it talks about being present and setting parameters for the way that you spend time with each other. Even saying hey, we're on our phones all the time when we're together. Let's change that so we can have
more
a better
quality time,
interaction.
Mm-hmm. The second step within this one is to establish a schedule, which I really liked, because it's okay that you have differing schedules and that you're busy. But if you can work together to create a schedule like you talked about, this is when we're free. You know, we're both so busy, but we're free this time. So let's make this time our time to go on a date or spend time together. And then that's what you're expecting. It's like, okay, I'm not going to see them for a few days or just today, whatever it is. But I know I'm going to see them this day because we scheduled it. We made that time and agreed on it.
And I am going to be looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yep. I'm going to pick out my outfit days before. Just kidding. But yeah. And then step 3 says, have a code word. Did you read this section?
I thought this one was kind of funny.
But I liked, okay.
It's not a terrible
idea. And the code words that they gave as examples were weird, but we'll share some of those. Okay, so for the code word, it says, while you two are talking about how much time you expect one another to make for the relationship, also come up with a code word that either of you can say if you're uncomfortable with your partner's behavior. So an example it gives is if you're in a group setting and your boyfriend starts making plans with someone on a day that you already had plans, like they forgot, which is totally fine. It happens.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us.
I mean, I never forget. No, I'm just kidding. That thing is on my calendar. No. But you can be like, hey, code word, remember, like, we had something scheduled at that time. And then they can realize it and be like, oh, sorry, I forgot. But that code word, it's like you agreed on it together. So it's kind of, it makes it funny instead of like, hey, what about me? You forgot about the plans we made.
Yeah.
Because some of the code words are
Why don't you read off some of those examples, Kenna?
Seltzer water or lampshade. Like,
ew.
What?
No.
Those are terrible. I suggest making a better code word. But
yeah, I would say like a food or something.
Yeah, food. It was just like, make it something you don't say every day. But I think that if you say a random word,
that'll just make it awkward for everybody.
Yeah. They're like, did she just say seltzer water? What is she talking about lampshades for? Okay, the 4th one. Look for alternative ways to communicate when you can't be together. So like texting, Snapchat, you mentioned. Calling, we talked about. So we kind of covered that. Okay, then the part 2 within this. Communicating your feelings. Communicate your needs. So now that we've been through a few times of struggling with guys giving us the time that we want, what would you communicate to the next guy that you date as far as your needs go?
As far as needs go, I'm going to tell them, like, hey, I might come off as, needy, but these come from a place of where I wasn't, given these things in the past, like validation or that quality time that we crave.
That we need.
Yeah,
to
we
feel
need
loved.
it, to feel that validation from the other person. And so just like stating that, like, hey, I know things are early on, but I want you to know I'm gonna want to see you as much as I can. I know we're both gonna have like lots going on, but it will mean a lot to me if you put in that effort to see me as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because that's not something that I've been given before.
Yeah.
So that's where I would start.
I love that. And I think that would help them see where you're coming from whenever you do set expectations of, this is what I feel like we should do as far as spending time together. Like, set that schedule. Then he'll be like, oh, I see. She's not being clingy. She's not crazy, whatever the stereotypes are.
The
stigmas. It's that you know that you deserve that and you haven't been given that before. So,
how would you go about it?
I think really similar. I'd say, hey, like, what's your schedule like usually during, like, if it's in school or in the summer if you're working, because I'd really like to see you as much as possible. And I know you have your own friends, your own life, and I definitely want to give you that time too. But let's just talk about it. Like, let's, like, not regroup, what's the word? Just, like, come together and talk about the things that we're doing, that we have planned, so that no one's
keeping each other
feelings...
in the loop.
Yeah, keeping each other in the loop so that no one's feelings are hurt. Because I think sometimes...
I like that inclusion at the end. Make sure no one's feelings are hurt. Because I am delicate. I am a fragile girl. And so I do get upset easily if, something, rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. And I think sometimes I just expect guys to read my mind, and that's something I'm working on too. Is like, oh yeah, we always do this together, so we'll keep doing that together. But then maybe he makes plans, and I'm like, oh, then my feelings are hurt. But it's like, if we just keep each other in the loop, like, hey, I can't do this thing this week because I've got this other thing going on, but we could
Let's
do something else
on this day instead.
Yeah, like make another plan.
Yeah, have alternatives lined up.
But keeping each other in the loop, I think that's what I'm gonna communicate in my next relationship, because there's been a pattern for both of us.
Yeah, let's break the pattern.
Break the pattern. The second one we kind of already talked about, define your expectations. So, talk to him about his actions. Ooh, that's a hard one.
That one is scary.
That's scary.
I've never done that before. Or maybe I have, or I'm just not having an exact experience come to my mind.
Maybe when it's like at its worst, then I finally bring it up.
Yeah, like, don't wait to bring up, like, hey, it was disappointing when you flaked on me.
Mm-hmm.
I should have done that.
Yeah, me too.
I was really let down at the end of my last relationship, like I've mentioned before, but I never got the chance to vocalize that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, yeah, that was kind of disappointing, but I didn't really explain my feelings to the best extent where I could have. And so, I don't know, just making sure that they're aware of, the way that you feel. Because
they probably have no idea that they made you feel that way, because girls are hard to read sometimes.
Yeah, and we operate mostly, like, through our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we're feeling a certain way, we're definitely going to act that way. And, we've learned that in our communications classes. Women, and, like, the difference between genders and their, like, communication styles.
Mm-hmm.
It's very different. Men are very logical and analytical, whereas women are very emotional.
Yeah.
And so, by expressing our emotions, that will mean more than just getting angry later on.
Yeah. Here's a mistake I made, because I also didn't communicate how I was feeling. A guy I was dating made these plans. He was like, we're going to do this together and this together, this day, like, plan this whole week of events for us. And I was so excited, because I love quality time. I'm like, wow, he wants to spend every day with me, and he made all these cute plans.
That's so fun.
So excited. And then he was having a bad day, or kind of a bad week. He wasn't feeling well and was kind of stressed about stuff. All those plans he made, out the door.
Oh.
I think he completely forgot about them, honestly.
Wow.
But did I forget about them? No.
Absolutely not.
I was so excited. And I just let it hurt my feelings, instead of being like, hey, what about the plans that you made? Like, hey, I know you're not feeling super great, but I was kind of excited for these things. Could we do it next week or whenever you're feeling better?
Yeah.
Because it was pretty sad. I was bummed.
Did he ever, like, message you and, like, apologize?
No. I really don't think that he remembered.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Men. But it's
See.
okay. It's okay. I should have communicated it.
Yeah. I mean,
That's my
but
bad.
it also sucks that he didn't
Remember.
anything.
I know. Yeah.
Anyways.
Next talk
topic.
about his actions in a kind way. Thinking about the bigger picture. Cultivate your friendship. I honestly didn't read through these ones as much. I really liked the first section. So we can just kind of quickly go through them. Cultivate your friendship. Any relationship, it talks about any relationship requires some foundation of friendship.
Yeah.
You got to be friends. And what's a friendship? You spend time together, you communicate, you get to know each other. So that's really important. The second one, evaluate him honestly. Because sometimes we do have to make the decision.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not working.
Yeah, I've definitely made my fair share of pro-con lists.
Yes, me too. Define your relationship. Because I've been in relationships where we weren't official. We were dating and we were exclusive, but we didn't have the title.
Yeah.
And so that changed a little bit how we spent our time and how we talked to other people too. You know, we were still talking to our guy friends, our girlfriends. So defining the relationship, I think, is important.
I agree. That is probably one of the most important things, just so you have like a clear vision, as it said in this article, about, you know, where you want things to go.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have that sureness and that you're stuck in like the gray area, that doesn't do any good for me. Like I hate it. And so like with my last boyfriend, he's like, I don't understand why girls
need
like,
the title.
And I'm like, why don't you feel the same? Like, don't you want to know that you're gonna have that person there for you, like, by your side? That there's commitment.
Yes. That's the kicker, folks.
Commitment.
The commitment
is hot.
We just want the commitment because why? I don't know. Just so there's that level of trust, so that we know we're on the same team. We have the same expectation for where things are going. That's why.
Care about each other genuinely.
Yeah.
So.
And then we'll just end on this one. Don't settle. And that's what we're trying not to do.
That is top of the to-do list.
Yep. To do. Don't settle. Because they could have all the other qualities that you're looking for, but if they're not treating you like you know you deserve, it's just not worth it. There's someone out there that will give you the time, and that is the theme of this, I think, is time. Give the time. Communicate what time you need.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't settle for someone who's not going to give you what you need. That's totally. Puts a bow right on top of this podcast.
Yes, there's the bow. Sorry, boys. Hopefully you didn't feel like we were attacking you. It really does go both ways, but just with our experiences, it's been with boys. So
I don't have any ill will towards, you know, all of these past relationships that I've had, or any of the guys that I've dated before. But, you know, there are those experiences that do stick out more than others that weren't, you know, the most pleasant.
Yeah.
And so
the situations that hurt.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily the person, it's, you know, the circumstance.
Definitely. Maybe they just weren't ready for it, or they just needed someone else. Then that's okay.
And so be
that's how dating goes, unfortunately.
We're going to turn the page, go on to the next chapter.
Next chapter. We're ready for the next chapter. Woo!
Let's go.
All right. Well, any last words you want to say to our listeners?
Thank you for having me again.
Of course.
I hope you guys don't think I'm crazy.
We don't think you're crazy. Hopefully you guys don't think I'm crazy. Hopefully you're still going to watch. If you have any other topic ideas or dating questions or any questions, let us know. Let me know. I mean, you can let Bree know too.
Yeah, hit me up.
But yeah, thanks for watching and listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.